this type of injury, like, you don't know when I wake up, I'll feel, different than the day before. And
this is the first time we heard from Caitlin since the team announced on Memorial Day she was dealing with a left quad strain. She would be out for at least 2 weeks.
We were told that Clark was not seen in the open portion of practice by reporters who are on the ground there.
Just watch and absorb it, and it's the same when, I'm not active too.
Caitlin Clark's latest injury update delivered news the league definitely wasn't hoping for, sending shockwaves across the WNBA and its fan base.
We'll see. It could be a possibility, but I could also not be available for that game too. I think just having good perspective is the best way to approach it. Like, yeah, you can be frustrated and whatnot, but, I think the medical team has done a really good job of,
The entire franchise has leaned heavily on a single player, and after riding her momentum nonstop, they've reached a point where she can't even take the floor, let alone fill those half-empty arenas. The concern on their faces tells the whole story.
Yeah, I'll be reevaluated this weekend, so I'll miss this weekend's game, but after that, it's, day by day and see how I feel and just kind of turn to the medical staff and what they think.
Caitlin Clark has finally addressed the situation, and surprisingly, she made it clear she won't be rushing back. Honestly, should anyone be shocked? Night after night in the WNBA, she's taken relentless physical contact, battling through games that often feel more like brawls than basketball. And now we're supposed to act stunned that she's choosing not to return immediately?
I think the medical team has done a really good job of, doing my rehab every single day, staying in a routine, coming in, getting shots up. But more than anything, I think just focusing on being a really good teammate, being there for my teammates, being a voice for them.
Caitlin Clark went down clutching her left quad on May 25th during a high-stakes matchup against the New York Liberty, the reigning champions at the time. This is the league's biggest attraction, the face of her franchise and arguably its most valuable star. Yet the response made it seem like it wasn't treated with the level of urgency many would have expected.
We've been told so far by the team is that this is actually an injury that was separate from the quad tightness issue, as Caitlin Clark described it earlier in the preseason, that she dealt with before. So it's a little bit of interesting situation given that it was the same leg.
The Indiana Fever officially announced on Memorial Day that Caitlin Clark would be sidelined for at least 2 weeks, and almost instantly it felt like the WNBA started wobbling, as if everything had been barely holding together. Clark later confirmed she'll miss this weekend's matchup as well, emphasizing that her return will be evaluated day by day, depending on how her body responds. So no one should expect her to rush back. She's not about to jeopardize her long-term career just to keep the league afloat while continuing to absorb hits without stronger protection.
Caitlin was asked when she's expected to come back. She told us she would be reevaluated after the weekend. After that, it would be day by day. The Fever are on the road for 2 road games before coming back to Gainbridge Fieldhouse next Saturday.
The reevaluation is set for June 9th, and realistically, no one expects Caitlin Clark to suddenly reappear like some superhero staging a dramatic comeback. She's an athlete, not a walking marketing campaign, and this setback has clearly tested her limits. So while she's sidelined, the questions keep piling up. The league can chalk it up to bad luck if it wants, but fans aren't buying that explanation. The June 7th matchup against the Chicago Sky was supposed to be a marquee event. Instead, ticket prices dropped sharply. Seats that were once going for $80 or more suddenly dipped to around $14. That's not a minor fluctuation. That's a massive sell-off. Some fans reportedly canceled travel plans, requested refunds, and even reconsidered hotel stays, deciding the trip just wasn't worth it. And honestly, many supporters weren't eager to pay premium prices without the league's biggest draw on the floor. While Angel Reese continues competing and building her own presence, a large portion of the spotlight and the demand has clearly centered around Clark. With her sidelined by a quad injury, the energy surrounding that matchup simply wasn't the same.
Caitlin telling us she's been a connector between her coaches and teammates. They've gone 1-2 without her, and they'll be without her again this weekend.
Online reaction quickly intensified, with hashtags like #ProtectOurPlayers and #BoycottWNBA trending across social media platforms. Critics aimed their frustration at the WNBA, arguing that more should be done to safeguard its top talent. One viral post, shared thousands of times, questioned why fans should continue supporting a league that appears unable to properly shield its biggest star. Supporters aren't staying silent anymore. They're vocal, frustrated, and pointing to specific moments they believe back up their concerns.
So I think that's just kind of been the time for me to like really find some patience, and I've never been a patient person my entire life, so this has definitely tested me a little bit, but I think it's going to be really good for me. And like I said, I've just tried to approach it in the best way I possibly can. You know, I can't change it.
Ticket prices for the Indiana Fever also took a noticeable hit, sliding from an average of around $137 down to roughly $80. That's not just a small market correction. It signals something much bigger. This isn't simply a marketing hiccup. It feels like a league-wide scramble that happens when the face of your entire brand goes down, and everyone suddenly realizes there isn't a clear contingency plan in place, just momentum and hope holding things together.
The girl is spectacular. It's not like she's not a scrub. She's not only can play, she's a star caliber player who draws this attention.
Instead of stepping in with real accountability, critics argue the WNBA seemed to brush certain incidents aside, almost as if dangerous plays were met with a polite nod rather than serious consequences. The frustration isn't just about one moment. It's about a perception that the review system feels inconsistent, leaving fans questioning how decisions are made. Some observers have compared the physicality in recent matchups to pro wrestling theatrics, pointing to intense on-court clashes involving players like Dejonai Carrington and Angel Reese. To them, it sometimes looks less like controlled competition and more like chaos unfolding in real time. Meanwhile, as players hit the floor and tempers flare, critics say the league's messaging hasn't matched the urgency fans expect, fueling the perception that stronger oversight and clearer standards are needed to maintain professionalism and player safety.
When a player is injured, if the other team knows that a player is injured, they will go at that player.
Let's be honest, Caitlin Clark is sidelined, and it's laid bare some hard truths about the WNBA. The buzz has faded, arenas are far from full, and ticket prices have dropped to levels even cheaper than a Happy Meal. Meanwhile, Angel Reese keeps performing like it's a celebrity showdown, but without Clark on the floor, it feels like she's just echoing into empty space. And Dejonai Carrington continues playing with reckless abandon, giving the impression she's treating opponents' heads like basketballs rather than respecting the game.
Just focusing on being a really good teammate, you know, being there for my teammates, being a voice for them, you know, because that's what I am when I'm playing. So you got to still be that consistent voice when I'm sitting on the bench. So I try to do that as much as I can for them, and just try to be there for them, I think, has been my focus.
Let's call it exactly what it is: negligence. The fault doesn't lie with Caitlin Clark. It's the league's responsibility to address these issues. Yet, looking at the current situation, the only thing the WNBA seems to be protecting is its own sense of denial. Fan excitement evaporated the moment Clark left the court, and the league's revenue engine appeared to sputter. Arenas echoed like empty warehouses, and even concession staff seemed to move through the motions without energy or interest.
Everything that you guys told us during the offseason about playing quick, playing with pace, pushing the ball up the court, everyone run, they weren't doing that, especially in the last.
While Caitlin Clark was sidelined, the Indiana Fever managed to notch just one win out of 2 games. That lone victory didn't come from some brilliant coaching adjustment. It came from Ari McDonald, who was signed on a hardship contract, arrived without practice, and practically carried the team as if she'd been part of the roster all season.
But for the Fever, one thing to keep in mind is that this is a sort of situation where the next 2 weeks, luckily for them, the schedule is a little bit playing the Chicago Sky, the Connecticut Sun, who haven't won yet. So they are trying to hold down the fort for now, while Caitlin Clark will be out.
Let's be real. The league struggles without Caitlin Clark are glaring. Fans are furious over missed calls, dangerous plays, and a PR team that seems invisible. With so much riding on one star, other players like Sabrina Ionescu and Ari McDonald aren't getting the spotlight they deserve. Clark isn't just a player. She's the brand, the draw, and the revenue engine. Her injury exposed the league's over-reliance on her, and until the WNBA proves it can protect its stars and market multiple players, rushing her back is out of the question. Her absence speaks louder than any buzzer, and the league must evolve or risk losing its crown jewel permanently.